So, if you're new here, my name is Michelle, aka the Ignited Teacher. And what I do on this channel is I help math teachers. Excuse me. Shouldn't have been drinking coffee after I'm under these and get under these lights. I'm sweating. Um, what I do on this channel is I help math teachers close gaps and to improve their students' academic performance by at least one grade level. So we try to do that quickly during the school year by um, tracking data, strategies. Formative assessment is what I'm talking about today. And in this episode, I'm going to talk about why formative assessment. So before we get started, I want to introduce you all to my newest product. It is called Gap Closers. And the reason why I call it Gap Closers is because in the climate that we're in today, I see you, I hear you, even in the district that I work in, we're feeling the pressure of these standardized tests. It just seems like there's not any end in sight. And the attacks on public school systems, it is a real thing. It's real. So I don't want you all to feel like, let me move this, you all are alone. And our autonomy to teach the way that we've been taught in college and in our programs to teach the attack on teacher autonomy with scripted curriculum is an issue. Also, with the recent cuts to the budget for teacher training for special education and other programs, it is a constant barrage of cuts and cuts. So, I launched this um gap closer membership is $7, and I launched it because it's a way for me to give back the strategies that I've taught and used in my classroom and other strategies I've used to close gaps. um so I'll drop that in the comment section of the live stream, and you can check that out at your leisure. I currently have about 60 educators in this program, and I'm excited about it because it's mainly for teachers who just need some strategies. They may have a math intervention plan and just need some strategies and some guidance in closing gaps. I do weekly trainings, just short trainings, some tips to give you all to help you all close those gaps and understand how to close gaps because it's totally different from your tier one instruction. So I'm going to put that in the chat um, once we finish the live stream. So let me see if I can get this. Nope, I moved it here. See if it's going to bring it up. Um, I'm trying to bring up you all going to have to see me do an overlay. Okay, here we are. Normally I can just get it done with that, but this is probably my one on secondary. And you're going to see me do this right on screen. I couldn't get it done. And I'll move this oops. There we are. Now we're all good. All right. So this is a book that I purchased when I was going to um, get my national board certification, which I plan on still getting that, but as life would have it, as the kids say, life be lifing. So this is a book. The name of it is Formative Assessment in Practice, a process of inquiry and action. And it is a really, really good book because it talks about what formative assessment actually is. In the Math Intervention Academy, which is another program that I have, have been sharing with them nuggets from this book about formative assessment. And in the math intervention cycle is a cycle that I created. It's assess, diagnose, reteach, reassess. That's the four components you need to close gaps. And that assess part is not always testing. It's not always testing. And a lot of teachers, they use standardized test prep questions to say whether or not their children are on grade level or mastering concepts. I cannot say it enough. Please do not use test prep items to assess your students unless you're prepping them for testing. So, formative assessment is an excellent way to assess your students while they're in the process of working or you're in the process of teaching. It is an excellent way to do that. And if you don't know what formative assessment is and you don't have any learning progressions, because formative assessment is based on the progression of learning for a concept. Let me turn this around. Okay. For a concept. So it tells you, and if you don't have anything in the book, it talks about what formative assessment is. It's what the kids must do, say, make, or write, or create to show mastery of that concept. And generally, we start with the understanding with Bloom's taxonomy, going from basic to complex, which is the lowest level of Bloom's, is just really understanding the concept. And that may be being able to tell what it is, how it's done. But then the next step is to apply what they have learned about it. And then the next step, synthesize, analyze, and it goes up the ladder. And to create is the highest form of Bloom's taxonomy. So, in the book, Formative Assessment in Practice, a Process of Inquiry and Action, it talks about why formative assessment. Formative assessment is a great tool to use. And what I think teachers have gotten away from, especially math teachers, is using their own expertise. And this comes with being told that we're not professionals, or being told that what we know is not enough, and then you have administrators that discount your expertise. But I'm here to tell you that your observations matter. in my Math Intervention Academy, I have a mastery check. And with you can use this with formative assessment checks. Remember, formative assessment is what the students must say, do, write, speak, which is say, create. Those are all the formative assessment checks that you can make. So, say for instance, you ask a question, and I've been talking about integers. Um, the students, you're talking about what creates a zero pair. How is a zero pair? What is an example of a zero pair in science? And that could be a battery, which your don't give me don't come for me, science teachers. I think it's protons and neutrons, or protons and electrons, one of them. But one of them has a negative and positive charge, and they cancel and they become a zero pair to create that electrical charge. Well, in with formative assessment, the first step is to elicit evidence of that mastery. That could be how students are approaching a problem. Now, I have a problem solving um, product that I sell. It's called Redraw Right, problem solving with redraw right. I have adapted it from the redraw right problem solving strategy so that it supports struggling readers. So, say for instance, students are working through that redraw right process, and you notice that the students, from the reading to create coming up with a strategy, they're struggling. Well, that's a formative assessment check. The students are struggling there. So, what should that student be able to do when they finish reading the problem? That next step is they should be able to formulate a strategy to solve the problem. And if they're not able to do that, then they are not showing mastery of problem solving with whatever concept that is. Now, what I can tell you about problem solving, it's not always the problem. The math, that's the problem. Generally, a lot of our students struggle with reading. So that is why I created that product, because our literacy rates have become have really declined. And I don't know where we go from here. Look, I just know that I used to teach reading, and our students are not reading where they need to be at, their levels aren't, and it's affecting the math in major ways. So the first thing is to elicit evidence. The next one is to interpret the evidence. Look for patterns. Where are the kids getting stuck at? What misconceptions pop up? In gap closers, I give the misconceptions about the common misconceptions for the strategies that are in there. So, like place value has a lot of common misconceptions. And when you're teaching that, you should be looking, well, when you plan your lessons should address those misconceptions as you're teaching, so that you can flush out all those issues. And those kids that are for intervention, tag for intervention, those are real intervention kids. So when you're teaching, you should know the misconceptions that you're looking for and try to clear those up and adjust for them during your lesson. Um, then the last step is you have to act on your evidence. So it doesn't do you any good if you're not doing something with those formative assessment checks. If you find out that those kids are struggling, you have your evidence, you interpret the evidence, and you know what they're doing, and then you just keep it. And that's what a lot of teachers do because they don't know the next step. The next step is math intervention. If those children, if that is not addressed, and I'm not saying it has to be addressed in the same week. I know some of these models like guided math, they have you address the missing seven. No, it's not. It doesn't work like that in RTI. RTI and the math intervention cycle that I created, they go hand in hand, meaning that RTI, that cycle, you assess, but you assess not with universal screening. It's the same thing. And then you diagnose it, interpret what is going on with the assessment. Like I said, that first part could be a formative assessment. And then you move to the reteach and then you reassess the students. So that's a cycle. Once you realize, oh, the kids are struggling, you have to do something with it. You have to. You have to address those deficits. What good is it to have the data when you're not going to do anything with it? So I'm not going to be on here ranting all night, but I wanted to talk about formative assessment and validate that your expertise and your observations are important. You don't always have to have paper and pencil. Your observation plus the paper and pencil, and not using those test prep items to measure your student success, that should be at the end when the kids are ready for it. um that formative assessment checks are very, very important because they are done during the instruction and it gives you real-time data. Yes, I'm interventionist is a must. We cannot ignore the data. Yes. And a lot of teachers do because they don't know. And at the beginning of this live stream, I did say that, we are not training teachers like we should. So that's why that what I'm doing is so important for us as veteran teachers to put things out there for teachers, because at the end of the day, teaching is on the job training, and that's what I'm about, training teachers for this next generation because we are in unprecedented times and our children, our public school system is under attack. And um, we have to just support one another, and train our teachers and provide workshops, which brings me to my free workshops. What I have started doing is offering free workshops um, monthly. I do a different workshop every month, and it my focus is math intervention, supporting students, struggling students. My last workshop was on September 20th. You can still view that workshop if you're watching this on a replay. As you can see on the screen, it says watch the replay, and you can do that. Let me move that over. You can do that. I'll drop the link in the description of this live stream. So I want to end with understanding what formative assessment is. Formative assessment is what the students must say, do, make, speak, or write. Those five different things to show mastery of that standard. And that's what you're looking for. But in order to know what they should do, say, speak, write, or create, you have to know what that looks like. And that's in learning progressions. If you're interested in learning more about learning progressions, you can do a search on my YouTube channel. I do believe I have some videos on learning progressions. Another good source What's that man's name? I forgot his name. Lord, it's at the tip of my tongue. But for the time being, you can look on my YouTube channel and learn more about learning progressions. It's what mastery looks like as the students move through the thinking that is needed to master a concept. So, thank you for tuning in. If you're watching this on the replay, let me know where you're tuning in from. And I will see you all in my next live stream or in my Gap Closer membership or the Math Intervention Academy. Have a good evening. Bye bye.